Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Exceed High Performance podcast. I'm Emma Lawson, and with me is performance psychologist Dr. Tom Bates. Today's guest is a pioneer in global marketing and a champion of purpose-driven leadership. As Unilever's Chief Marketing and Growth Officer, Esi Bracey is at the forefront of many of the world's most iconic brand campaigns. Esi's also been a pioneer for really championing the way that we perceive beauty, from her early career at CoverGirl to founding the Crown Hair Act. Now fresh back from success at the Cannes Lions Festival and having been voted one of Forbes' most influential CMOs for the second year running, I'm delighted to invite Esi to the podcast today. Esi, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for that incredible introduction.
That was good, actually. That was very good.
Wow.
She's improving.
Improving. Thanks very much, Tom. I'll take the notes afterwards.
Well, it's better than me, I can tell you that much. So, wow.
I should have recorded it.
No, Esi, genuinely, we're really happy to have you. And, I'm looking forward to exploring a bit more about your career and your mindset that really is kind of defining and influencing the way you approach things. Now, to some extent, your career, I think, has really been quite uncommon. You've had incredible success early on in your career at Procter & Gamble, to the role you had at Coty, to sort of heading out the North American market for Unilever, which arguably is the most strategic, and then the role that you've had now. But one of the things that I think humanizes this really for me and for others is that you talked once quite humbly about how there was a point in your career that you didn't feel comfortable in your own skin, and how then finding that comfort was a real unlock for you. So I wondered if you can kind of talk about what that meant and what you went through and what was the change as well.
Yeah. I consider myself an accidental executive. The career I have, I never intended to have. When I grew up, my mother was an attorney, really much a civil rights activist as an attorney, and my father was a school teacher. So I didn't have role models that were business leaders, and I loved math. And in that, I knew I didn't want to be a math teacher like my dad. And so I thought I would be an engineer. And because I liked people, I assumed I would be a doctor. And so when I went to university, a school in America called Dartmouth College, I studied biomedical engineering and thought I would be a double doctor, a doctor of engineering and a doctor of medicine. And, I didn't like the science. Well, I liked the math, but I always was intrigued by people. And my first job at Procter & Gamble, it was an accident that I discovered it because they pitched it as liking to solve problems and liking people. And I'm sharing all that as background to say business was foreign to me. And when I landed my first job, I just kind of went for it because I thought I would take a break until I figured out what I wanted to do. So when I went into the corporate arena, we call it corporate America, I didn't know the codes. So I thought I had to mimic everyone around me to be successful. And I called the people who worked in the business at the time the suits. There was no one that looked like me, not many women. And this was this is over 35 years ago. Certainly not what women we would say in America is a woman of color, not any black women. So in terms of being comfortable in my own skin, I just thought I wasn't right, they were right. And so I needed to learn to be like them.
And what did that, when you say learn to be like that, is that in terms of the way that you sort of showed up, the way that you dressed? Like what
all of it.
Yeah.
The way I dressed.
Yeah.
Now my hair is blonde with locks. No, I had a straight conservative bob. I wore these very conservative glasses that were very neutral suits so that I didn't stand out. Beige with the white top. Always very conservative closed-toe shoes because that's what the suits did. I did my version of the suit. And I just kind of kept my head down and tried to do my job. Yeah. And so, it was the way I dressed. It was the way I acted, the way I spoke, because I was coming out of university. And in university, you learning the material, you're learning engineering. So I thought that's what I needed to do in the corporate environment. And then I had an aha moment. So I wasn't even aware that I wasn't comfortable in my skin. I just didn't think my skin was what was needed.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, oh, I'm insecure. It was like, I need to be like them. I'm not like them. And so I had an aha moment where I went to a diversity training workshop. And the trainer was explaining how younger women in the organization couldn't relate to senior women because they found the senior women more masculine than their male counterparts.
Okay.
And I thought, that's terrible. These women should mimic their male counterparts. Yeah. And then I thought, oh my God, that's what I'm doing. I wasn't even conscious. I mean, it was like automatic.
Yeah.
And then I realized that's what I was doing. And in doing that, I realized that I was doing the organization a disservice and others a disservice, because the whole premise of the training was organizations are better when you get the skills and benefit the natural instincts of a diversity of people. And when we're all modeling each other, we're one-noted and we have blind spots. And I saw that I was doing that. And so that's when I decisively made a change.
And did you make that transition overnight? Or did you kind of have to give yourself permission at different points to kind of push it?
Once you see it, you can't unsee it. So it was almost immediate. But the first thing I did was cut my hair. So as a Black American, to have my hair straight, I would have it chemically relaxed.
Okay.
And so I grew out my chemical relaxer. That took about 4 to 5 weeks. And so I cut off the relaxer. So my hair was at the time shoulder length, and I went to wearing my hair about 1/4 of an inch high in a short afro. So that took some time to do. But everything else, I forced myself to make a change. Yeah. And it was one of the most uncomfortable things I ever done at that point in time. Wow. Because I felt exposed.
Yeah.
I was safe mimicking the suits.
Yeah. Okay.
Did you, Esi, at that point, did you notice any differences? It was uncomfortable. You said you felt like, you had to force yourself to do that. When you went in, were you aware of any different responses that you got? Because that's quite a big first step.
Yeah, it was very uncomfortable, because I would talk about getting a manicure. I would feel exposed. I had short hair. I'd never had short hair like that before. So was I aware of the response I got? I don't know if I was aware of how people reacted to me. I was more managing my own discomfort.
Yeah.
But what I learned from that is after the process, it was like I got a pep to my step. I was so much freer. Yeah. I made the change because I was committed to the organization.
Yeah.
I got more out of it than anyone else got. I did it not for myself. I did it because I felt I was perpetuating something that wasn't good for the organization. But I got this freedom. I hadn't realized all I was carrying to conform. So what I noticed more was my lightness, my freeness, my ability to connect and interact with others. Yeah. And that has led to one of my leadership principles around do you, it's your superpower. No one can do you better than you. And that's when my career started taking off. I was unfiltered. I would share my honest opinions and feelings about what we needed to do from a product development perspective, a marketing perspective, because I was so busy mimicking other people, trying to find right. When I gave that up, just expressed what was naturally there. And you're recruited for your instincts, your natural talents, which, by the way, when I interviewed for the role, at Procter & Gamble, I didn't really want the job. It was practice for another job. So when they hired me, I was being unfiltered because I didn't care that much. The other job I wanted, I ended up not getting. And the Procter & Gamble job was a much better job anyway. And so it took me back to that. So it was a wake-up call in terms of embracing myself, being comfortable in my own skin, and the benefit that I got simply from expressing myself.
And Esi, when you made this change, was there a difference in the output, either in terms of your creativity or in terms of the way that your team responded to you or perhaps made changes themselves?
All of it. Really? And it wasn't my intention. As I was saying, my career started taking off because I came up with more ideas. Yeah. It led to the creation of Febreze. When I was in a brainstorming session, I was asked to do a project at the time, and I'm going to date myself, to help us reach our year 2000 goals. So this was in the 90s.
Okay.
And the leader of the business, the general manager at the time, said, there's a big gap between what I'm expected to do in 2000 and where we are. We need to do business. And I was tapped to be a part of this team. And I brainstormed in the part of the session the idea that led to Febreze ultimately.
Oh, wow.
And I would have never felt comfortable doing that because I thought, I'm young, I'm straight out of school, I go to bars and I wear clothes that are not really dirty, that are full of smoke odor. So the Febreze started first as an odor neutralizer for clothes, and then we developed it recognizing the bigger opportunity was in the household more than clothes. But I would have never felt comfortable exposing myself that way.
Yeah.
And so bringing that into the business. So absolutely, and time again, I saw that.
Yeah.
Well, Esi, what if we can just go back a step, because I'm really interested in the way that you describe the filteredness and you being unfiltered, that aha moment. What do you think? I mean, fast forward now with all of your leadership experiences, and you must see and ultimately be the architect of helping others to live unfiltered lives within the organizations. What do you think, though, drives conformity?
Oh, that's a big question. I think we create a standard of what right is. We do it in beauty. There's a standard: blonde hair, blue eyes, slim, tall. You identify that standard, then everyone works to conform towards that standard. An organization will create a standard for success. Often that standard is created by a majority who own the power. And in that, others line up to have the power. I think that's what drives it. So when I came into my organization, that's what I saw as leadership. That's what I saw as success. So no one told me to do that. It was an automatic. This is what I need to do to be successful. Beauty, similar. This is who's on the cover of magazines. This is the standard. So this is what I should aspire to in terms of my aesthetic. In the corporate role, in the corporate world, it's the same with teams. So I think it's an excellent question, but I think that's how society works.
I was going to say that's probably one of the reasons why I ask you that, because we're talking about organizational leadership and conformity, but I think, I don't know how you feel about this, Emma, but it's a big thing in society, especially with social media, having to look perfect, how many likes I can get, conforming to what is liked more. So I'm really interested in sharing something with the listeners from your perspective on whoever might be tuning into this, thinking that's so true, and what can I do about that?
Yeah, I think it's really important to find your tribe. The saying, if you can't see it, you can't be it. And so I think it's important.
Love that. One more time.
If you can't see it, you can't be it. And so in terms of mentorship that I do, I spend time with children. I spend time with college students. I mentor probably over 100 people because it's important for people to see someone being themselves and being a leader. I think the brain works because our brain is a bit lazy. So, heuristics make our brain model quickly what we see as success. It's cognitive science. So if you can't see it, you can't aspire to it, and you can't see another way of being. So I think finding your community that gives you the space to be who you are is super important. So you're surrounding yourself, your brain, with a different image for success. And that, in my early years, I didn't have so much. Right? Because there weren't a lot of people that looked like me.
Right.
So I leaned through my discomfort, but then I started creating my tribe. So in those early days when I first started out, I created a group, Black advertising managers in soap sector. I formalized the other Black leaders, and we created programming and did things together. So in the world, there are affinity groups. And I think it's not to create conformity to that group, it's to create support for you being your authentic self, right? And then it's also making sure that you interact with a diversity of groups so that your brain doesn't have one profile or model for success. So when I mentor probably 100 different people, they're all different backgrounds, men and women, different age groups, different ethnicities, different religious beliefs. And when I do that mentoring, mostly it's selfish. I get the benefit out of it, right? Because I get different perspectives, right? But then they get to see different models of leadership.
Yeah, I love that. Esi, one of the things that I didn't say in the introduction is that you and I actually had the opportunity to work together, which was incredible. And I think that's probably testament to why you're here today. So thank you for your ongoing support. One of the things that I loved about working with you in the room was that you were this force of positive disruption. And by that, I mean you were never satisfied with the status quo. You were genuinely interested about how things could be different, better, new. And I think being that person is an incredible gift to have that skill, but also you can meet with resistance. And, you talk about the disruption you created early in your career. Have you come up against resistance and how have you dealt with that?
I like to look at things as both half full and half empty. I think the half full gives you the appreciation for where things are and often what the fuel is to make things better. That half full, the half empty is the opportunity or possibility. Yeah. So I do have this dissatisfaction with the status quo, but it's more in the context of possibility.
Yeah.
So I think the best leaders do three things: inspire others, create clarity, and then help people deliver their best or contribute to that goal.
Yeah.
So I find that half full, half empty help create the possibility of inspiration.
Yeah.
What's the possibility? We're doing this well. Imagine when XYZ happens.
Yeah.
Imagine what it'll be like. We've demonstrated we can do this if we do this more. So it's creating that vision. And then it's defining success within that vision. Then engaging with others, certainly to get buy-in to that vision, but to see how they'd like to contribute. And then what you can do to help them contribute. And in our corporate organizations, there are often a lot of barriers to people contributing. So you help them. So in terms of resistance, there's often natural inertia to doing something that hasn't been done before, right? Yeah. Like, what? Why are we doing this? Isn't this good enough? I think it's showing appreciation for what has been done and then creating that opportunity as possibility, not like something's missing, but like, here's the opportunity that has helped that. And still, it's not easy. So repetition's important, listening to issues and concerns, what motivates people that might shape or expand that vision or alter it in another way is important. And then you get a critical mass.
Yeah.
And then momentum happens. So you don't always need buy-in from every single person, just enough to make it roll.
Yeah. But that also takes a lot of energy. And, you need to have a sort of support network, I think, for yourself to kind of keep doing that, to be that driver. So what is your support network around you?
So how I manage my energy.
Okay.
I believe time is finite, but energy isn't. So I try to do things that give me more energy than I expend. And so probably 2 decades ago, I created something called energy domains. Okay. I really reflected in my life and listened to myself on what gives me energy and what doesn't. And so then I created names around them. So one is like, ooh la la, beautiful sensational experiences. Another is passion power, getting results in areas that I'm passionate about. Another is amour and adore, close connected relationships with people I love. I added one when I had kids, smile high, which is helping my kids be confident in their own skin. I have another called heart, soul, and whole, which is being connected within myself. So meditation, exercise. And I have another called impact and legacy, which is helping other people make a difference and achieve their potential. So I try to line up my whole life in those areas. Like running a marathon is passion power. Yeah. So I like to run and establishing a goal. So in the career that I have is passion power. So I worked in beauty for many years because I love beauty. And so that helps me get more energy. So people always say, how do you do all these various things? And it's because I get a lot from doing those things more than what I give. And things happen in life that don't give you energy that you don't choose. But the more you have energy stored up, or I have energy stored up from the things that I enjoy, it helps me deal with those things that are that can be energy drainers. And even in those things, add in elements that give me energy.
And you literally check in with yourself going, this is how the week's going. I feel I've got an energy low. I need to do more.
Absolutely.
You do.
It's not necessarily on a weekly basis. Whenever I feel off, a little down, a little demotivated, I reflect and say what's missing. And it's almost always one of those things. A little more ooh la la in my life.
I feel like I need a bit more ooh la la.
I need great shoes. Yes. And for me, it's great shoes, or I need a little more ooh la la, or I'm missing being connected to my kids, or I'm missing kind of that intimacy. So it's that. And annually, I check in and I reflect. I establish goals in the domains, but I have a more structured process. But otherwise, I just use it. If I'm feeling a bit tired, I just use and say, oh, what am I missing? What do I need to add more of? What am I doing that's outside of that I should?
Yeah, I love that.
It's
a bit like your spikes and spirals, right?
It is. I'm just listening, and I've got light bulbs flashing off all around my head listening to you, because there's about 24 more questions that I'd love to ask you, but I'll try and ask the first one first. It's fascinating to me in corporate organizations, in business in general, in high performance sport. There is this paradigm of work really hard, then you get the results, and then you can be happy. Right? There's a wonderful book written by Sean Aker, The Happiness Advantage. And when you're speaking about energy, AC, that's one of the first things that I noticed about you before we actually said hello. Because it's difficult to see on a podcast with cameras recording, but I can actually feel the centeredness of your presence. And so I'm intrigued to ask you about how have you helped others to flip the whole work really hard, get the results, be happy, to be aware of energy, what's off, through all of the beautiful names that you've just given them. I wish I had a notepad, because I'll be writing them down now.
Good news is it's recorded.
Yeah, good. Oh, is it?
Yeah. That's what we're doing.
I'm glad. How do you help people to do the same thing? Is it just by sharing that with them in corporate arenas, or the people that you lead and manage? Is it creating discussion groups? Is it being the example first yourself? Because it seems to me that working with you or working for you would flip that outdated paradigm on its head. Work really hard, get the results, then you can be happy. Sounds to me like that's reversed, and you flipped it. How do you do that?
Yeah, there are a few things that come to mind. So how I help other people bring their authentic selves and experience joy in their work. The people that are on my team, I do that through conversations. And the people that I mentor, I do that through conversations. People will ask questions. If there's a performance discussion, what is my work going to look like? I ask, what are you interested in the work that you're doing? What makes you happy that you want to do more of? What doesn't that you want to do less of? What are your goals? People always ask me, how should I build my career plan? And I always say, it depends. What do you want? What do you want? What do you like? So I don't have a cookie cutter answer for people. I always tried to, in my coaching, and sometimes I don't think about it as coaching, I think about it as curiosity and helping people. I try to ask questions to understand what people want, who they are, what they want, because that's the question. We put that aside because we think there's a playbook for success, and we don't ask ourselves, what do I want? What makes me tick? It's what makes me happy. Often the first answer I get, what do I want, is I want this job, or I want a promotion. So often I want a promotion. What do I want? Promotion. Promotion is a reward for something. I'm asking you, what do you want? What do you like to do? What brings you joy? So first is through conversations. The other is I talk to broader audiences over time. So instead of one person, I'll talk to groups of people. Advertising education network where I'll talk to 500 or 600 people and have a talk and share insights and learnings. And I've learned over the years, those reach more people and create more insights. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing is what you said is in just being, just being, talking about my choices. I never chose. I didn't have a destination that I wanted to be Unilever's CMO. Never. I never even had a destination that I wanted to work for Unilever. Accidental executive. It's just a series of things that I've followed in life. I've made choices based on what I enjoy doing. So that's how I ended up staying at Procter & Gamble for 25 years. I just kept flowing to what I enjoyed doing, and I got results from that. And I ended up with Unilever because I believed in the mission of the company, and I discovered that. So again, in terms of role modeling for myself, role modeling through my actions for others.
And what is it that you want that brings you joy, that's helped you create that career?
So there's two things that I value. There's a lot I value, but if I boil them down to two, one is authenticity and the other is growth.
Yeah.
So my life has been one of claiming myself. You call it being comfortable in your own skin. I think it's even beyond the skin. It's what's within me, being comfortable bringing that out, not being constrained by some standard or prototype, being really confident in what's inside. And so I've let that guide me. So what do I want is to be more of myself. Yeah. Like my life journey, when I'm done with this life, that I've been more of myself and I've contributed to being more of myself. And so when I was offered this role at first, I thought, I don't think I want that role. And then the second time, I don't think I want that role because I like running the business and not just doing the marketing. And then I thought, wow, I can help.
Yeah.
I can help because if I've had criticisms about how we teach people to do marketing in this modern world, now I can change that. If that's what I'm doing, helping Unilever create the next generation of marketing in this modern world, and that's working. So that's what I don't have a destination job.
Yeah.
I have a mission in my life to be more of myself and make a difference doing that. I have articulated my purpose, which Unilever has helped do, but interestingly, I did it before joining Unilever, as breaking barriers and inspiring greatness.
I love that.
And it took a lot for me to say that because I'm never someone that wants to take myself too seriously. So how can I inspire greatness? But I went through a structured process of interviewing people and seeing who I was for them. And I heard consistently, Esi, you helped me run this marathon when I didn't think I could do this. And you did this. And I had to force myself to listen because the way I was raised was, absolute humility. You never... Yeah. So I had to let that in to help the universe guide me to what am I meant to do in this world. So I want to lean more into that, being more of myself, unfiltered, my unfiltered self, giving that as a gift to others, whoever it can help, breaking barriers, taking off artificial guards, and helping others bring out their best and me mine.
I see. You're talking about the process that you went through before you joined Unilever to define your purpose, because I think that's there's so much power in that, and I just want to highlight that for everybody listening and watching. And I'm even more intrigued to ask you about, how would someone watching or listening to this go through a similar process for themselves if they had never imagined that before, if they'd never thought of that before? What would the first step be for them? What would you encourage them to get curious about or do for themselves?
Yeah, for me, it was a structured process, and it was related to what I talked in my energy domains, understanding what makes you tick and what ticks you off, if you will. I believe, and this might sound too spiritual, but...
You're allowed that.
The universe gives you signals. Why is it that you like vanilla and I like chocolate? There's really no explanation. I think joy and happiness are triggers to what we're meant to do in life. So a big part of that is reflecting on the things that we're doing, who we're with and how we're being that light us up and what things don't. It's kind of like a guide. So it's a first step is listening and observing. The second step for me was asking people in my life what role I played for them. My children, I asked at the time. While I'd contemplated my energy, I'd never contemplated my purpose, this big question, what am I here to do? And asking a wide group of people who I was for them and what they said.
Yeah.
And at first it was uncomfortable for me to hear.
Because what? Why?
I don't, again, this is a part of my growth. I have a discomfort with compliments or being with the impact I'd have on others. But again, that's been a part of my just embracing who I am and what I have inside. I would think if I have a big impact on someone, that's being not humble. So being with that and hearing from my kids, hearing from my husband, hearing from my friends, hearing from mentee, just over and over, it was consistent. You've helped me do something I didn't think I could. Either by being the first in this, the first Black woman general manager at Procter & Gamble, or running a marathon, or you gave me this. You know, I was at Cannes last week, and I was 2 weeks ago, and I was surprised by people that would say to me, oh, Esi, do you remember 20 years ago? Or when I'm in this situation, sometimes I might ask myself, what might Esi do in this situation? And most of those things are not intentional, but I had to embrace that kind of intentionality, helping people through some barrier and bringing out themselves. So the second part would be asking people. The third part, and this is from kind of like this old book called The Celestine Prophecy. Have you ever read that book?
Yes.
That was also foundational for me. And I came back to that in this process of looking at your lineage. You know, your parents, who were they? And the combination of them, kind of what's next for you. And as I mentioned, my mother is both of my parents were civil rights activists. Professionally, they did different things, but they were all trying to help, people in some way and kind of champion for underserved or underrepresented. So when I look at all of that, it helped me. What do I like to do? What have others seen from me that I hadn't noticed? And what did my parents instill in me?
Was there anything that was really surprising from that almost discovery work that you did?
Just the consistency of helping people do things they didn't think were possible, because that wasn't my intention.
Yeah.
Wasn't my intention. You know, my second marathon, I said to a friend when we were at a conference, you should run this marathon with me. She was like, I can't do that. I was like, of course you can do that. All a marathon is training. You can do that. It's amazing how many people, hundreds of thousands of people that run marathons of all shapes and sizes and walks of life and fitness levels. It's just about training. You can do it. Oh, and so I sent her a training program. Here's a marathon rookie. You can do it. You can do it. Tanisha, you can do it. And so we ran the marathon together. I didn't think about that she wrote a book about it. She wrote her books. She wrote a book called Stretch. She talked about the marathon and what she learned from herself in that experience. That was not my intention. Yeah. I just saw her working out, and I was like, oh, you should run the marathon with me. So the things that I did where people said, you helped me do X, I never set out to do that. Yeah. And so what I discovered is, wow, there's a theme there. I didn't know that. And I was surprised at how consistent it was. I was also surprised at what it took for me to accept that, because I didn't notice that I had this thing about ego.
Okay. Like
really accepting an impact I could have on others.
Yeah. And
so that was helpful to diagnose and say, okay, what is that? What do I have to get past so that I can be more of myself?
And when you know yourself that well and are comfortable with that, do you think that prevents you from ever overextending yourself or getting it wrong? Or does that still happen sometimes?
I'm on a growth journey.
Yeah.
I don't have it right. In my aspiration is for every environment, every part of my life that I'm in, that I am totally being me, unfiltered, When I say unfiltered, it isn't diarrhea of the mouth. It's not that. But it is not trying to be a contortionist and fit myself into someone's mold. So I still am thoughtful about speaking into someone's listening so that I can be heard. But I want to not filter myself based on, I don't think this person will like that, or they'll reject me, or all those things, or I may fail, so I don't want to do X, Y, Z. And I have areas in my life where I'm full on that, and I have areas in my life where I'm not, and I have concerns, or I'm stopped by fear. So my growth is certainly in doing that. Or if I feel, again, back to this thing on being humble or not, that's taking up too much space. So, I might find myself wanting to retreat, so that I'm not taking up too much space, so that there may not be space for others, or they may feel threatened. I don't want to have that consideration.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many questions that we could ask you. And I sort of listen very eagerly to everything that you've said. I mean, some amazing things. I'm also conscious of time, so I'm going to ask you a final question, that if there was one piece of advice that you wish someone could have given to an 18-year-old Esi that would really have helped you perhaps move through your journey quicker, what would that have been?
Yeah, it's one thing that is a leadership principle I have now, but was not there for me when I was younger. And it's this idea of say yes when you're scared and no when you're clear. I have said yes to too many things that are not a priority for me, and have made myself do busy. And early on, I resisted things that scared me.
Yeah.
What I've learned is the things that I've done that I've been the most afraid of have been the biggest breakthroughs for me. I'd never had dreams of having children. And my children, like most parents, I mean, what a breakthrough. When I left America and moved to Geneva, Switzerland, I was scared out of my mind. And I went there expecting my second child.
Yeah.
And if I had known that, I would have never done it, ever. And it was one of the best things that ever happened to me and my family, was to have that experience outside of our home culture together, and getting to see the world not through the filter of my home culture. There are many things like that.
Yeah.
Many things like that. But it took me a while to get to that point of the yes. So when yes to children, I was in my mid-30s. Of all the opportunities that I missed when I wouldn't do anything over, but if I could give myself that advice as a 15-year-old, I would be so much freer. I would have taken so many more risks, and I would not have wasted my time doing a lot of things that were not, in line with my energy domains, my purpose, or other priorities.
Cool. Well, that's a beautiful way to end what's been a really fascinating conversation. So, Esi, huge thanks again for being with us, and I can't wait to see what you do next.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Pleasure.